Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market.
Good morning and welcome to podcast number 20, David and David Real Estate Podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us. Welcome, Jonathan Hatchwin.
Well, first of all, you butchered his name.
Oh my goodness, did I
butchered his name, but
think of it as Cohen with a ha. So Cohen.
Hacohen.
Cohen.
Hacohen.
Which translates to Cohen's were the priest tribe, and Ha translates to the, so it actually translates to the high priest.
The high priest.
Little known
Yeah.
fact. So when they rebuild the temple one day, I apparently have holy work to do, but that may not be happening for a few thousand more years. So
I don't know.
For now.
The way our two companies are going, I think we're going to get there a little quicker than sooner rather than later.
Amen. All of a sudden, we got religious on this program, on this podcast. We've never done that before.
No,
But
keep it more
for
neutral
those
than that.
out there that are actually listening to this podcast, the loyal listeners and viewers, I think it's fair to say you've heard me mention Jonathan Cohen probably on every episode we've done. David, you can vouch for me on this one. I think I have. I think I've talked. You'll tell me if I've talked nicely. I think I have as well, because Jonathan Cohen is my partner. And I don't know why it took us till episode 20 something to get him on. He should have been on episode, maybe not 1, but 2. But we certainly refer to him a lot because part of our discussion is always about what's going on at our firms and how we look at certain things. And we're going to focus on some of those ideas today. And I don't do anything without talking to Jonathan and running stuff by him. And he's been a fabulous partner to me over the years, and he's a fabulous lawyer. So sorry for taking this long to get you on here, Jonathan, because we know how excited you are to join this podcast, and we're really happy to have you on here.
Well, I appreciate again you having me on, and I didn't want to push. I was waiting for the invitation, the full invitation. I figured once you guys would get too big, you'd forget about me altogether. So at least I could still get in on the ground floor, so to speak.
Well, truth be told, we know you were waiting for us to get this camera set up proper and make sure we had HD before you came on to flex and stuff like that. So now we're ready for you.
It's funny, we're gonna sneak peek talk about marketing today at some point, but the one thing I would say overall, as far as all of us, we sometimes we want to stay away from controversy, how people are going to react to us, whether it's positive or negative. One thing I always say in marketing at the end of the day, if they talk about you positively, great. If they don't talk about you positively, but they're talking about you, that's not always a bad thing. When they're not talking about you at all and you're irrelevant, that's the worst. So that's kind of my starting point in my mind. And if they are not talking about you in the best light, bring them over to the best light. So,
wow. Talk about jumping right into it, because, that's the number one complaint I get from my realtors. They all know they have to create content. They all know they have to be on Instagram. They all know that they have to reach out and post things. But a lot of them are scared of, what is my neighbor going to think? What is my colleague going to think? What is that, stalker on my Instagram going to think of my post? And it really prohibits them from posting. So I love that mentality.
Well, I had a list in my mind of things to talk about, but it's interesting because I read a lot of articles on this stuff. I use Flipboard, and Flipboard knows the stuff I like, so it sends me content from all over the internet, so I don't have to go searching for it. And if I see a really good article, I'll send it to the lawyers in my office, and we'll talk about marketing, sales. But I tell them there's one thing you should know. I don't care what industry you're in. You could be selling widgets, you could be selling services, you could be a dry cleaner, you could be selling vacuum cleaners, you could be in tires, a barber. All these concepts come back to the same type of idea, no matter what industry you're in. This is the same notes on sales. And so I sent them an interesting article the other day, and it had 3 key points. The first main point is be authentic, be yourself. Your best sales is you. When you try to be something you're not, it comes across as very fake, and people are like, wow, that person's selling to me and I don't trust them at all. And then you lost the room. Even if you're not confident in yourself and what you are, if you're true to who you are, people say, wow, okay, they're not perfect, but you know what? They're real and I can relate to them. So I trust them, and having that trust and respect, that's your starting point. So that's where I think if you see the really successful people on Instagram, it's not the ones, hi, I'm here to sell you a house. Here's why. This is, whoa, check out my dog, check out my family. I'm helping my neighbors mow their lawn, whatever it is. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, they bake. Oh, they're real, It's people like the relatable kind of stuff, I believe. It's David and I talk about on our Instagram, who gets the most amount of hits by far? It's not a lawyer, it's the company dog. Yeah. People love Ollie. You'll see here's a post about how to assign a condo, 5 likes. Here's the dog licking her paw, 100 likes. That's just how it is.
And it's the power of the internet. Those 100 likes, gets synchronized to the whole network of everybody that liked that photo. And now their followers are seeing Ollie and your firm and the networking and Korman's real estate and corporate law and the chosen lawyer on their feed. And all of a sudden their friends are liking your photo as well. And it has a catapult effect, right? That's what social marketing is all about.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about advertising, and this is 3 non-advertising people, but we have to do it, is it's not the direct ad that brings business in. Like, you can't quantify how many likes of Ollie is actually translating into transactions for us, right? But that's a basic advertising principle, no matter what the industry is. You just have to get your name out there, because you never know if people just are liking because they like the dog, they like Jonathan, whatever it is. But at some point they need real estate. They go, oh, I need real estate. How about that guy, that I follow and I like his
Ollie, but I'm going to
dog and stuff. Right. So you never know how that translates. It's hard to follow that.
Almost impossible. And you don't know which part is the one that seeped into them. Like, they could drive on the same street, see your billboard 1,000 times, open up Instagram, see your ad 1,000 times, and then all of a sudden they pick up the phone and talk to David Korman. They're like, oh, David, that's right, you're a real estate lawyer. Even though that same message has been put into their brain, but it is sitting somewhere in that subconscious. The question is, when does it come out? David and I have talked about this before with David Korman, but before I went into law, I studied undergrad business, and I majored in marketing and I minored in HR. Why? Because I knew in my mind, I'm going to be running a law firm one day. I hopefully will have a great partner, which I do, and we run it together. And what will I need to know? I will need to know how to do marketing. I will need to know how to do HR. These are the most important skills I felt that would help me in the future as a lawyer, because they don't teach you this stuff in law school. And even when they do teach you in business school, they don't teach you how to do it. They don't tell you how to manage personalities. They don't tell you how to sell to people, how to really relate to people. All they teach you in school is how to think outside the box, how to see situations, how to read them, identify them. That's it. But as far as what all of us in this room are doing right now, as far as marketing our services, growing our businesses, dealing from an HR perspective, this is all life experience. This is trial and error. That's the only thing that works. And a lot of doing things wrong until you can figure out what to do right.
100%.
Well, I'm going to give a couple examples of how that's worked that everybody can relate to. Everybody knows we just lost a legend in Toronto the other day in Mel Lastman. Okay. And he was the guy, going way back before he was in politics, when he had the original Bad Boy, the example that he said, how to market himself and sell an idea and everything, and be out there and be flamboyant that way with the nobody and just, being a character, going up to the Arctic to try and sell freezers to Eskimos, like just to find a way to get attention and get there. So, and some people loved them, some people didn't, but when they needed an appliance, they knew where to go. And, one of, his friends through life, and they had something in common, was my uncle Saul Korman, who we lost earlier this year as well. And he had the same type of philosophy. He did all his radio ads and he never finished a sentence, and he was all over the place, and he was talking about everybody else's business, but his own business somehow. And I used to get feedback out there, like, people either loved it or they hated it. And they thought some thought he was amazing, some thought he was terrible. But when they needed a suit, they thought of him. You know, when they-
569 Danforth Avenue.
569 Danforth Avenue, and there's no coincidence that that Uncle Saul was a great salesman that way. Mel Lastman, my dad, was in menswear, did similar things. Jack Korman, and they all knew each other, and they had that in common, and they just knew that principle. You sometimes got to be out there a little bit, and like Jonathan said, like if they're not talking about you at all, you're not doing your job, right? And but when they know who you are, and all of a sudden you need a house, you know who to go to. You need a lawyer, you know who to go to. You need a suit, you know who to go to. You need an appliance, you know who to go to. So, you know, that's probably the principles that they taught you back in your marketing courses.
When I made the points of things I wanted to discuss today, point number 2 was branding. So we'll kind of go out of order here because number 1 is still number 1. But from a branding standpoint, you know, we can use the example of the new realtor. New realtor joins David Gorski's brokerage over at Sudden Summit, and they're fresh, they're green. I want to sell houses. I want to help people. One of the first things, you know, the same thing as a new lawyer joining Kormans. What is your brand? Who are you? What are you? Why do people want to work with you? Why do they want to trust you? What is your identity behind? You know, it's funny. A lot of realtors will try different things. You know, one is known with the bow tie, one has funky glasses, one has a hat, one has the cell phone. You know, it's funny when you see these ads, that's the stuff that triggers the magician. You know, they all try little different things. And at the end of the day, it's memorable. Even something like holding up a basketball on your ad. People remember the basketball guys. So it has nothing to do with real estate whatsoever, but it's a brand. There's something memorable that sits in your mind.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Gorski?
Anytime we hire a new realtor, that's the number one thing we do with them. First thing we do is we sit down, we create a whole branding package for them from start. Logo, color design, right? We create templates for them. And it's so important, right? And having that foundation, that strong foundation from day one, where they can, market themselves as a professional realtor to their inner circle from day one, and they have the logo, they have the look, is fundamentally important to their business and getting them off, on the right track.
Even like we're talking right now, and I'm looking over at myself when I see myself on the screen. Jonathan at Chosen Lawyer, the t-shirt, the Chosen Lawyer. And whether people know what a chosen lawyer is, isn't a chosen lawyer, whatever, they just remember that. Even something simple, when I want to give out my information to somebody, I'm on the street, you know what, Instagram, Chosen Lawyer. That's it. That's easy to remember. Jonathan Hakohen, Hackachin, McCowan, Kormans, Cowmans, but they know Chosen Lawyer. That's it. Easy, boom. Because when you got to choose a lawyer, you go with the chosen lawyer. That's it.
Yeah, and Jonathan and I have talked about this over the years too. Like, I come from a completely different background and a way of promoting myself as a lawyer. I always wanted to be much more like the straight lawyer that people hire me because of my professionalism, the service that I provide. When I would walk into a brokerage, I was always, wearing a suit or a jacket or something and looking professional. And I still have a lot of clients and a lot of brokerages that would look maybe down on me or look at me differently if I didn't come across that way. Other places, it's totally different. But Jonathan certainly influenced me in time. So instead of me, like sitting here right now in a jacket, a sports jacket or something like that, I'm wearing a t-shirt here today so I can flex my muscles. And I've got one of my mentors on here, one of my life mentors, and David and I talk about mentors all the time, and nobody's influenced me more in life than Chevy Chase. So you can ask my kids when they call me Chevy and stuff. So Jonathan, in honor of you, I wore my favorite t-shirt today and show off my mentor, and and I'm gonna flex a little bit here too. So
it's funny because if you catch me on the street on a weekend, like I'm at Home Depot, for example, I'm wearing either a Macho Man t-shirt or a Ric Flair t-shirt. So it's funny who we chose as our respective mentors.
Well, guys, listen, I've known Kormans, my firm has had a relationship with you guys for a really long time. And ever since I joined Sutton Summit, I've had a relationship with David, and I can honestly say I've seen a big shift in Kormans and how you guys do business and on the business development side ever since Jonathan was added to the firm. So
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to having you on the podcast, Jonathan, because I think that the changes that we've seen within Kormans on the business development side and the marketing side, on how the company is run, on how aggressively you guys have expended. I give you guys a lot of credit from a business point of view and how you guys run your business. So I'm really interested and excited to hear, all the little nuances of what you guys did, the changes that you guys made along the way, how you guys structure your company, your team meetings, how you guys approach expansion, hiring, and what the mindset is on growth, because I think that's where you add the most strength to the mix, Jonathan. And the transformation in Kormans has been unbelievable. So I hope we get into those nuances a little bit in this podcast. But before we do, I'm going to take you guys on a really quick market update. We are in the middle of December. It's December 15th today. We're about a week and a half away from Christmas. And we all know that this time of year, people have a little different priorities. Christmas shopping is first on everybody's list. Lots of Christmas parties going on, lots of celebrations. And, there's a lot to celebrate. The market in 2021 has been astonishing on the real estate side. It's been extremely busy. A lot of realtors are finally taking their foot off the gas, and they're slowing down a little bit, or taking time to spend time with their family and slowing down. And we see that translating to the market a little bit, where we are going slow down. We are seeing the numbers of offers slow down. Prices are still maintaining. We're still seeing things sell in multiples. We're just not seeing as many of them. But interest rates are still at an all-time low, and there's still a lot of activity out there. So historically, this time of year, we would see a bigger slowdown. We would see, people not listing at all. We would see people really, taking their time and enjoying the holidays. But that's not the case. People still understand that it's still a busy market out there. We still have some inventory coming out. Whatever's coming out is selling. We're just not seeing the number of showings and number of offers as aggressive as we did in the last couple of weeks. But I think in the new year, we're going to see activity go up. I'm hearing more people are thinking about listing their homes in the coming weeks. My phone and my office is getting phone calls from sellers wanting to put their houses up. I think we're going to see some more inventory coming on the market in January. Now, don't get excited. We're not going to see anywhere near the inventory levels that we saw in the past. It's still going to be extremely low inventory levels, but people are talking about listing their homes a little bit more in January. So that's the market update I have for everybody. It's still really busy out there. We're still seeing multiples. Prices are definitely holding, but again, because of the holidays, we're not seeing that much activity out there.
So I have a question for you on that, David. So you have someone that's, considering selling, and they're coming to you or one of your agents. And so you got two options. Are you advising them, let's get this, up and running January, just after New Year's, or sometimes you're saying, let's wait for the spring market. Let's wait a little bit longer, get more people in town, get the weather starting to improve, or are you just looking at each situation on its own?
Yeah, we're really trying to understand what the needs of each particular clients are. If they already bought a house, then we're trying to encourage them to get on the market as quickly as possible, even at this time of the year, because it's still, there's still a shortage of housing out there, right? And even though the number of people looking is slowing down, it only takes one great buyer to get a great offer. And we see that time and again in this market. So I still encourage sellers that are in a position that need to sell or want to take some money off the table to list right now. It's still a great time. There's no inventory, still buyers looking, still a great time to sell.
And I could say from a lawyer perspective, when people ask me like what kind of deals are coming across your table these days, the biggest influx, the biggest three I'm seeing are new construction, number one. People buying new construction like no tomorrow. That's very, very hot. I'm seeing it in the same projects. Different agents are bringing different clients over, and stuff is selling like hotcakes for a lot of builders. buyers being very cautious as far as are these deals going to go through. They hear doom and gloom, deals, projects getting canceled. So there's a lot of interesting talk from that end of it, but new construction is still hotter than ever. Resale condos, people still reviewing status certificates, trying to get into the condo market. And number 3, assignments. A lot of people know me as the assignment king because I do a lot of assignment deals, and I love assignments, but I tell them I do other things in assignments. I do all sorts of real estate, but lots of assignments from all sorts of areas because, again, there's no inventory. So people are trying to get creative, and they're like, okay, I'll buy somebody's contract and I'll take over their purchase. So those are the 3 that I'm seeing the most, aside from all regular. And there would just be, for a lot of clients that, you know, they're retaining me ahead of time, saying, I'm going to work with you once I find something, but it's that inventory. If there is more inventory, there's a lot of hungry buyers out there, which is a good sign.
Yeah, if we had the proper inventory levels, I mean, we would be selling like an all-time record number of houses out there. Because I mean, the demand has never been higher for Canadian real estate. You know, even first-time home buyers are jumping into the market and looking, but it's really tough out there, right? Especially in the GTA. So new home sales, absolutely. Assignments, we're seeing a huge influx in the brokerage level as well. And assignments are tough. They're not an easy deal to navigate just because there's deposits, there's timelines, there's liability issues, right? So there's a lot. It's probably, Jonathan, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but assignments are probably one of the most difficult real estate transactions,
if not the most. And the funny thing is, a lot of people buying assignments are first-time buyers, so they've never done real estate. They're scared out of their minds, and now they're doing the most complicated transaction with multiple closings, with multiple parties, and multiple agreements. Yeah.
And tax issues that come up on it, like they're very complicated transactions, why a lot of lawyers won't do them. A lot of agents, you know, David, we've discussed it before, a lot of agents won't go near them, and a lot of lawyers won't do them. We get referrals. Jonathan gets referrals from other lawyers passing it on. Can you do this? We don't want to do this in our office. And internally, we have some clerks that don't want to go near an assignment, and we have others that are fabulous with it and specialize in it. They're hard.
And
they're really difficult.
In the long run, based on what the government has said before, I can see a time where there will not be assignments. They're going to find a way, because in their minds, the government's minds, which I use the term loosely, they feel that assignments artificially inflate the price. So if we get rid of assignments, then the end users will find a way to get them. I don't know if that's going to work or not. I don't know how much government intervention can help whatever kind when you don't really understand, you know, what you're doing. But on that token, assignments do serve a purpose. It's just as long as people are not abusing it. You know, it's that person that goes and buys 7 units in one building. I can understand that. But there are people that generally go buy a new construction, fully intending to live in there, and then circumstances change. They get divorced, they get married, they change their job, they lose their job, whatever it being, and they just cannot take over this unit now for whatever reason. Those people still need help, and those are the assignments, you know, we like. For the multiple flippers, those are the ones that are creating mostly the taxation issues to be cautious of. I mean, we're getting away from marketing now, but you know, even assignments, you know, marketing myself on assignments brought me in a very good word of mouth reputation, because people knew I do assignments. And then the thing is, do I pigeonhole myself in assignments, or do I find a way to service everybody, you know? And David Gorski, you know, for yourself and your team, how many people are known? I do condos in this area. I'm the bungalow specialist. I'm the waterfront specialist. So you know what happens when I work with your client, for example, right? And I'm closing your waterfront property because you're the waterfront specialist. When they come back to me on their next transaction, you won't even know this. They sold and bought with somebody else. Why? Oh, I'm not going to go to him because he's the waterfront specialist. He doesn't know about houses in another city. He doesn't know a different type of property. You had a captive audience. You had them in the bag. All you had to do when you finish your transaction, just so you know, I do all sorts of real estate. I'm here to help you no matter what. Don't touch real estate until you call me first. But they forgot about you, and they also thought that you can't handle this, and they never even bothered asking you because they just knew you as that pigeonhole person. And that's the scariest thing when you lose a client. And then when they work with somebody else, if they like them, they may never come back.
Well, you know, that's the upsell mentality, right? That's like going into Tim Hortons and buying a coffee and walking out with a $12 bill in your hand because you also bought, you know, a donut and a breakfast sandwich, right? And I mean, in your business, it's the same thing. You close a real estate transaction, And at the end of the day, you have somebody follow up with the client and say, hey, by the way, is your will and your estate in order? Because we also do that, right? And then that translates to other aspects, commercial real estate, mergers and acquisitions. And, I give you guys, again, lots of credit because you guys run, an excellent organization when it comes to that stuff. But, every business is no exception really, right?
But it's how you do it. It's funny because you can say it in ways where you're not selling it and you actually have to talk about it, but you seep it in. So for example, when we're signing up two clients, you have a husband and wife and they're buying their house, right? We have to get them to sign a confirmation that we're acting for the both of them and they're waiving ILA and confirmation there could be a conflict here if they're not on side. So when I talk about that, we throw in, so just so you know, I can act for the both of you as long as you're both on side. If there becomes a disagreement, we can't act for both of you anymore, or either of you on this transaction. We can act for you on any future transaction, including if you want to do a will, if you want to do a contract, a lease, incorporation. And I throw that in there to seep the seeds. So we have to talk about that. Now they know what I do also. I didn't sell it to them. And then they're like, oh, you do wills. Well, actually, yes, I do. But the purpose of this is to talk about the conflict acknowledgement, not about me selling wills, and they don't even feel it. So you just find ways to talk about who you are, but not in the selling perspective. And that's where in marketing, again, in one of my points here, I said, you're not selling, you're building relationships. When you're going into sales and you're going to be a realtor, a lawyer, anybody, your job is not to sell and get customers. Your job is to build relationships. I can't tell you how many people I have built relationships with and they've never been my client. They won't even give me their own transactions, but they love me so much, they feel guilty, they send me everybody else. So they're my best marketer there. So whatever the way is, you build that relationship, you get to know one another, each other's interests, they like you, they trust you. Either they'll work with you or they'll be your marketer.
Yeah. And I hate the word selling. Yeah. I'm all about helping, right? Yeah. And this goes back, like back in the day, a really good friend of mine used to clean carpets. And, when I was really young, I used to help him out sometimes, right? Sure. And well, thanks. And his biggest obstacle was upselling, right? Every single time he used to clean the carpets, if the people had pets or they had small children, he would have a really tough time selling deodorizer and selling carpet protector afterwards, because he felt like he's, taking their money, right? And I sat him down one day and I said, look, every single time you buy a carpet from a factory, it's protected, right? When you clean that carpet, it takes the protector out. And there's a stain, it actually goes deeper into the carpet after you have your carpets cleaned, right? If you explain this to the customer and say, look, we need to put that natural protector back in after we clean the carpet to get that carpet, that protection that it has when it came out of the factory, people are going to buy that product because you're helping them, right? But if you...
That's a great analogy. You're not selling them, you're helping them, you're explaining it, you're providing a service to them.
Just like you guys with your wills and estates. Like, David, we had an amazing podcast on will and estates and why I need a will, right? And it's the same concept. Like, if you guys think, hey, we're selling a will, well, that's a negative connotation, right? But if you guys think, hey, we're helping a customer, organize their estate and providing a valuable service, it's going to be so much easier for you guys to, sell that service and really help your customers. And the same goes in any business. If you have the mentality that, hey, I'm helping somebody, it's going to be really easy for you to offer that service and to pull that customer in, versus selling, I think in the marketplace has such a negative connotation these days.
1,000%. I mean, when you go to the Rolex store and there's no inventory, the people are coming with their money in their hand. Please take my money. Thank you for taking my money. I so appreciate this because you're giving me something of such value and I'm so happy. Oh, and they put it on their wrist, right? And when, in car sales, no different, and at the end of the day, when you think about it, you're not grabbing the money out of their hands. They're coming to you with the money. They want to give it to you. They really want to give it to you because they feel you're giving them a service, you're giving them a good that they need, they appreciate, and they want. And so that's a starting point of it. So My best clients that I work with, they call me up and either they're existing clients or they got referred and they're like, Mr. Cohen, are you able to take us on? Thank you so much. Please take my money. That's that's how they feel versus somebody who feels you're ripping me off and what do you do? You know, fortunately, we don't have too many of those, and we don't really want to work with that type of segment. The distrusting, the mentality that everybody is out to get them, and that's sad because they may have had bad experiences in the past. From those, I tell them, listen, you shop around, you talk to other people, you'll always find somebody cheaper. That's fine. You got to decide who you want to work with from a service perspective. When your deal's closed and an issue comes up and you pick up the phone and I actually answer it, I think that has value versus the cheapest person and then good luck in getting a hold of them. There's value in that. And I'm not going to live or die by any deal. And if they don't feel comfortable or they need to find the absolute cheapest, it's not worth it. At the end of the day, you're going to have to give 1,000 times more service and it's going to be a money loser because you put all that time and you can't charge for it. So there's people that do appreciate the service aspect and some don't, and that's okay. And that's from a fit perspective. They say that in business, the 10% biggest headache files will cause you 90% of your stress. And if you don't have that 10%, your life is so much better. And the one thing I would say to young lawyers, young realtors, young salespeople, whoever you are, you feel like when you're starting off, you're going to live or die by every transaction. And if I don't get this one sale, my life is over. But when you have that bad inkling that they're never going to be happy, they were going to return the good, they're going to complain, they're going to sue you, whatever there is, stay away from that. Listen to your spidey senses. You don't want to put your energy where you don't need to. And if you avoid those 10% of headaches and you put all your energy into the great 90% of the transactions, all of a sudden you got rid of 90% of your headaches and you're giving the energy to the people that deserve it. But it's a very fine line. And you don't know that when you're starting off. So you have to take everybody and everybody. And then you start to realize, okay, these are tire kickers. They're going to spend 50 hours of my time and they're still going to go to somebody else at the end of it. So you have to kind of pick and choose and figure that out. But don't be distrusting of everybody. But don't just give your time as a professional also. Your time is value. Your time is the most valuable commodity that you have because it's finite. There's only so much of it you have. So know your own value, know your worth, and make sure that people that you work with, they know that and appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
We're also very fortunate, the three of us, in the type of business that we're in, because look at the product that we're basically dealing with for most of our businesses, our respective business. It's people's homes. It's not just, I know David always likes to get people, buying investment properties too. So I don't want to discount that. So I'm throwing that out there. But predominantly, we're involved in people's purchase and sale of their homes. It's where they live. It's not a real estate investment. It's a personal choice. When Jonathan and I get involved in doing people's wills and helping them with their power of attorneys, things like that, it's very personal items. So I look at it, we're not selling them just those services. Something that I talk to clients about all the time is, what you're paying for is some peace of mind. And I always love that phrase and throwing that out there because sometimes people just get back and go, oh yeah, you know what? When I get my affairs in order, that does give me a sense of peace of mind. Like there's real value in that, knowing that I've got a basic will done. I've got my powers of attorney done. I've had a discussion with my lawyer about whether we take the property as joint tenants or tenants in common or what happens beyond me and things like that. So part of what we're dealing with, because we're dealing with people's homes and their very personal lives, is their own peace of mind. And it's hard to quantify that and put value on it. But when you talk to people about that, and they finish at the end of the day, it's going, yeah, I feel better. I got my house, I got it in order. I got my will. I can sleep better tonight than I could have before I got this done. So that's what I always encourage, and even the other lawyers in our office too, to talk about that. Sometimes especially when you're discussing wills, power of attorney, you get this done, you're going to feel so good. Okay. Now it's not going to be perfect because 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you probably have to change it. Circumstances change. You might have to change it. But in the meantime, when you go to bed after you sign that will, you're going to feel really good that you got that done. You're going to have a good night's sleep.
And let me tell you, my office is dealing with a situation right now where a gentleman passed very suddenly at the age of 57, left his wife with no income, no insurance. Thankfully, they have a beautiful condo, which is completely paid off. But even that is hard for the wife to unlock that money in that condo because she's stuck. She has very little income. She has no money in her account. She has no employment because the husband was the breadwinner. And, you know, I'm now seeing the effects of what this is doing emotionally, you know, and she's completely devastated. They have a daughter as well that needs help, and the mother's feeling very helpless, not being able to you know, be there financially for her daughter, for herself as well, right? And you know, one of my agents was sharing with me that she wasn't able to buy food for herself for the last 2 weeks just because she has, you know, absolutely no income whatsoever, right? So fundamentally important to plan for those situations, and you know, a will is just a must.
And it's interesting we're saying this because we're going to segue it to how Korman's evolved and everything, and generally about businesses and how you grow a business, right?
Yep.
Your individual situation that you just described, I read a lot about this in businesses, and you have the business where you have one person running the business and the way things are set up. And if something happens to that person, what happens to the business? What's the game plan? I love watching the show Succession, you know, and they just had the season finale last night. Did not see that coming, but all of us are living in a real life version of Succession to different degrees, and we don't live their kind of lives in helicopters and all that kind of jazz. But still, what is the game plan? If somebody falls off the map, if somebody's not available, where does this business go? And that's where, you know, a lot of businesses, I think, whether you're starting off as a realtor or a young lawyer or building a law firm, building a brokerage, where is our game plan? Where is our 5-year, 10-year? And who's involved with this? And trying to do everything on our own and not building a team, you know? And when you have a team and you have components in place and you think of every scenario that you can, best, worst case scenario, you start getting into insurance, you start getting into life planning, wills, and you're thinking ahead. If something happens to any player on this board right now, where are we going to go? This business has to keep functioning. When you build a successful business, it becomes a human being. It becomes its own living, breathing creature. It's no longer you as the business. The business is its own thing. So, and you look back and you're like, wow, if something happens to me tomorrow, this business is running. This is its own, you know, functioning entity. And it's quite amazing that way. But people very often, you know, small business owners don't have that foresight, and they get very scared and like, oh, I don't want to spend money, and I don't want to grow my team, and I don't want to do this. So I'm going to do all the marketing myself, and I'm going to be the manager myself, and I'm going to be the salesperson, and I'm also going to close the deals. You can't do all these things. It's impossible. You're going to shirk one of your responsibilities. And the two components of business that always get damaged first are marketing and HR, because your first priority is to your customers and closing their deals and make sure they're looked after. So that means you're not looking ahead at all what you're supposed to be doing from a marketing perspective, not putting energy into it, not putting money into it, and you're certainly not worrying about any staff that you have. When you're the manager, plus you're the owner, plus you're this, plus you're that, and it doesn't work. The house of cards will fall in because something is not taken care of. And that's where I know I grew up as a perfectionist. I always did everything on my own. And when I got to university, I had to learn to work as a team. I had to learn, we have an assignment, everybody's got their component. I have to let go. I got to take my foot off the gas, and I got to trust other people to do these functions. And I start seeing now, you know, as I'm getting older and I dealing with, you know, realtors, for example, that I've worked with, and mortgage brokers and all sorts of different professionals, people get personal assistants, and they have direct marketing coordinators, and they have all these people in place that are doing their tasks as part of the team. So that person can step back and do the bigger planning part and oversee everything like it's an orchestra going, rather than try and do everything on your own. But again, small business owners have a really hard time with that. And the ones that are most successful do know how to delegate and do know how to build a proper team, in my estimation.
So Jonathan, it all starts with a business plan and goal setting.
Now, I can tell you when I came to Korman's, they at the time, David and Jerry, you know, we getting to know each other. They've run the business for so many years. I'm the fresh-eyed guy. Yes, I came in with 15 years of experience, but they don't know me. I don't know them. What I didn't tell them was I had made a 10-year plan, and I had made a list of all the things in my mind needed to be done, but I didn't tell them. Why? because if you throw too many things at once, nothing will get done. So in my mind, I said, okay, we're going to start small. We have this list and we're going to do this. Then we're going to do this, and this will lead to this, and this will lead to that. And it's slowly building. If you try to do everything at once and throw too much information, people get overwhelmed and it just stops the process. In marketing, a lot of reason why people don't do marketing, invest in marketing, is because they're saying, okay, in order for me to do this, I have to hire this many people. I got to do this many hours. I got to spend this many dollars. And it becomes an all or nothing proposition. And I said to them, no, that's not the case at all. Hire one person, do one thing. That one thing is more than you were doing yesterday. And in a month from now, do 2 things, do 3 things, and keep doing that. And then don't be afraid to evolve it. Maybe you got to pull back. Maybe you need to go into another step, but keep doing something. Like for myself, if I don't have a professional and a personal goal that I'm working towards, a big level one, I feel very stagnant. I feel like there always has to be shooting for something. I can't just work day to day. I have to work towards the big picture. What I wrote down and I manifested of what I thought Kormans would be, it didn't completely come to fruition because David had his ideas. And as we talked, we evolved it. And there's things that I didn't see it that way. And it was really good because if he could see it that way and I could see it that way, it worked. And while David may have loved a lot of my ideas, he didn't love every single one. So maybe only 80%, 90% came to fruition. But where it started for me was I had that list. I had the 10-year goals. We finished the 10 years in 4 years. Wow. And I didn't think that was humanly possible, but it got done. But why did it get done? Because I didn't do it by myself. If I would have gone and tried to build something from scratch, it would have taken me 20, 30 years. I came into something that was already functioning, well-oiled machine that was good. It just simply now they saw things in one manner. I saw it in a different light and I wanted to shake it up, but I was building on a foundation already. Then I had the people to work with. I had the partners that I could bounce ideas off of. We could evolve it together. And that's the only way. If it would have been me alone in it, it still wouldn't have gone because you have to be able to trust in your team. You got to accept input and you got to accept that even though you love something, if other people are not seeing it that way, maybe that's not the right route to go. So it's a bitter pill to swallow from an ego standpoint, but you have to look at the greater good of the company. If it at the end of the day builds the company, clients are happier, it's worth it. So the one thing I will say from that end of it, absolutely. I walked in with a game plan from day one, and I constantly looked at that plan every week. I tweaked it, I talked about it, but I didn't always share it simply because I felt you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen and you can't just throw ideas at people. I never came to David with an idea. David, here's what I think maybe we could do one day. I came with a game plan. I said, here's what I want to do. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's the steps. Now, what do you think about it? I used to have a sign on my door when I was a young lawyer. It said, no problems accepted here, only solutions.
I love
it. In working with David as my partner, I never brought him a problem. I only brought him solutions.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had, just to go, back in time when Jonathan and I first talked, first met and, got to know each other and everything. I think one thing I liked about him and he liked about me is when we discussed the firm and where we might go is that we're of like mind, that we both were committed to bringing it to the next level, not status quo, not just come in and do what we do and this is how we do it and we'll have another person here that's doing what we were already doing. It's how can we grow this firm over time? Let's make this a firm. So it's like what John said, like when I retire at some point in time, the business doesn't retire. Kormans is going to be around for decades beyond my involvement in Kormans. That's the type of firm that I always envisioned this to become. And I just sold this to people yesterday. I got a new client yesterday, just on that basis. Their lawyer retired. When that lawyer retired, the practice retired. They're looking for the next generation. I said, well, look, you take me on. I'll be around another 10 years or who knows how many years, but it doesn't matter. The firm's going to be around for decades and I'll be involved while I'm involved. And you'll be introduced to other lawyers, other partners. And that's what we wanted to build. And I think that's what Jonathan and I discussed way back then. Like this firm is, let's build this firm. So it's going to go way beyond Jerry. It's going to go way beyond me. You're going to be the guy, that's going to outlast us here. And who knows who the next guys are going to be in behind Jonathan, but it's going to be something to build. So having said all that, what it really took is a commitment because you're going to do that. it's not, oh, well, I spend most of my day just practicing law. Well, now I got to spend part of my day practicing law, part of the day I got to be thinking bigger picture and getting involved in all these to-do lists that Jonathan keeps putting out and these projects and the next goal and everything, because we're doing two things. We're practicing servicing our client, but now we're also doing a whole different thing. We're building a business, right? And we're trying to do it at the same time. So the first thing it takes is commitment, because it takes, and Jonathan had a discussion, this is a great idea. Are you prepared to put that time in to do it? Where's the time going to come from? You're already spending 12 hours a day doing this stuff. Now you need another hour and 2 hours a day. Where is it going to come from? Right? Right, Jonathan? We just had this.
We just talked about it last week. Absolutely.
Last week. Are you, where's that time going to come from? What's going to, what are you going to give up in order to make that time? Or what am I going to give up to make that time if we're going to do this, right? So you have to have those open, honest discussions, right? And then you have a commitment to do it. And then, John, you can probably touch about too, but difference between having a plan and a great idea and then implementing, because that's a big thing too when you're developing and going forward.
That was a big problem in general when you bring people on, even from an administrative standpoint. There's three kinds of positions you need. You need to have the big ideas, then you got to have the steps on how to do it, and then you actually have to execute it. And very few people can do all three. Most people can only do one, maybe two max. And part of from an employment standpoint, when you are a manager, you are a leader, a president, you can't try to fit people into what you want them to be. You need to understand who they are and what they are best at and how to best maximize their efforts and their talents. Because if you try to make them do all three and nothing gets done, you're very, very frustrated. But a lot of people don't like to have the big picture. They can't, because if they were doing the big picture, they'd be sitting one of these three seats right now. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. So you go from there saying, but they're very good at coming up with the steps and or being able to execute. And for somebody who's very good at execution will say, listen, I get your idea, I get your steps, but this is not the right order at all. We need to go in a different order. We need to cut out some steps. We need to add some steps. That's fine. I tell people when we're sitting in our marketing meetings, when we're sitting in administrative meetings, I don't care how you get there. I want this result. That's it. Don't need to hear it. As long as it's not illegal, we're not going to do that, obviously, but just find a way to get it done. We got to win the game. So think outside the box. If you were to hit a roadblock, don't stop. I want that result. I don't need that result, and we better get that result. And then, but it's not a pressure standpoint. It's you should feel free because you have autonomy. You're now liberating somebody to come up with ideas and find a way. And if you give them the incentive to do that, they're going to feel so amazing when they accomplish it. Versus, I want to have this done. This is a big level goal. Good luck. And then you come back 3 weeks later. How are you doing with that? And you come back a month later. Why? Because they don't even know where to begin. They're clueless. They don't know. And you have to sit, okay, what steps do we have? Okay, let's go through these steps. Let's punch in our to-do list. I've given you now 5 steps. You don't have to feel overwhelmed anymore because I don't need you doing 5 steps today. I want you to do 1 step. Come back to me next week. Step is done. Great, let's go to step 2. Done. And then you come back the following week. Oh, I did 3 and 4 in 1 week because now I got the hang of it. Mm-hmm. Teaching people how to execute, teaching people how to come up with steps is one of the most valuable things you can do as a leader rather than just doing it for them. But on the same token, you need to have the people that have the skills and have the energy to do it. And that's another thing as far as from an employment and execution and business standpoint. A lot of people have skills, but don't have the motivation. A lot of people have motivation, but don't have skills. I give the example always, if I'm on an island and I got to bring one person with me, I'm taking the street smart person over the book smart person any day of the week, because a street smart person will figure out how to get off the island. They can learn how to read. The people who are very book smart, you can't teach them business sense. You can't teach them the gray areas. And we can't always go by the book like this. We have to learn how to talk people, massage things, get to know people. Those are the street smart people. So the people at the end of the day that are book smart and street smart, they're the most dangerous and they're the ones who are going to do the best in business. But even still, the people I see are most successful when I go to all sorts of companies, award ceremonies, and I see those top producers, those are the street smart people. Those are the ones that know how to get results.
such a big difference on working in your business and working on your business. And, you know, you need to give time to both. You know, a lot of small business owners get stuck in that, you know, in the trenches working in their business. And, you know, like as a lawyer, like you're closing transactions, you talk, and I mean, you have to do those things, right? But working on your business, right, and having goals and knowing where you're going and having, you know, meetings and accountability and having goals of where you're heading is so important. You need to know where, you know, the north is. You need to know where you're going, and you need to know what the incremental steps are along the way.
Let's talk about a new
I
realtor.
think you nailed that in the head. Like I'm the classic example I was in my business and I couldn't get out of that role until Jonathan joined us.
And I want to talk about that. I really want to talk about that, because I feel that there's so many small business owners that are stuck in that position. And you know, I really want to peel back some of those layers, and I really want to get into it. So here's my question, Jonathan, for you.
Okay.
Do you remember what the first couple things, 3-4 things were that you first did when you first joined Korman, and why you did them?
1,000%. So,
and listen, the more detail you want to give the audience and people listening,
absolutely.
You know, the better. Because I think there's so many business owners that are exactly in that same situation, that have these great businesses, these amazing businesses that have been around for forever, and like amazing value services, but you know, they don't know how to scale, how to leverage, how to systemize and take them to the next level.
You know how people, Davids, how people have a fear of dying? I think that a lot of people have a fear of living. That's my starting point with it. And there's one thing that I always said to myself, I came from a Bay Street background, okay? And I know the story of a person who worked day and night on their files, and they drop dead at their desk, and it's very sad. And then a week later, somebody else is in their office. They never existed. And what were they? They were a cog in the system. They were in the factory, and they never made a difference. And that's the saddest thing. And to feel that that's what your life existence was. And I think there's nothing worse than being a professional and being at year 5, in year 10, and saying, life just passed me by. What did I accomplish here? I got stuff closed. I was a good business. I was good to my clients. There was good business there. But what did I grow? What did I become of it? I'm in the exact same point I was 5-10 years ago. Nothing has changed at all. That's my fear. And that fear is what drives me. But when I came to Kormans, what is the first thing I did? Nothing to do from a building standpoint or anything else. And it's what I tell every young lawyer, young realtor. This is what I did. The first 3 months, word of mouth. I opened up my contacts. Let's say there's 5,000 people in there I accumulated over the years. I made sure everybody on the planet knew where I was, what I was doing, and that I'm here for you. Whether it was a phone call, a text message, an email, a lunch, a coffee, a dinner, whatever it is. Sometimes people got a combination of things, but I went through my contacts. I did not stop until I went from A to Z, and the whole bloody world knew where I was, who I was, and I'm here to help. Call me anytime. Nice to catch up with you. And that was my first point. And that blew me up, just because I had the existing database. You have people that, let's say, worked in marketing in a company. Now they're becoming a realtor, right? Why are you going to put billboards, and why are you sending out flyers when you have a captive audience? They want to work with you. They know you. They trust you. You don't have to sell to them. They just want to hear from you. Open up that contact book and go after every single person that's ever met you and knows your name. And if you reached out to 1,000 people, I bet you're going to get 10 deals, 20 deals. And guess what? That's the 10, 20 deals in being a realtor means a lot more than being 10, 20 deals as a lawyer per se. But that is your starting point. And not only that, those people that you reach out to, they're now your marketing agents. All of them can go tell everybody as well. So they all realize where you are. And then if you're really savvy and you connected with everybody on social media, guess what? They're now connected, and you're connected with all their connections, and it just kind of snowballs that way. Every single person I meet now, they go immediately into my CRM. They go into all my contacts as far as in the social media world, and the firms as well, so that I'm in their face all the time now, so they remember me. So that was my first starting point before everything else, as far as your question goes. And then from there is building a 10-year plan, not 1 year, not 5 year, 10-year. Come with a 10-year, and then from there break it down into 5 years, 1 year, breakable steps, breakable projects. I was doing that. That was my step number 2. And then step number 3, and we'll kind of talk about it more, but you have, if you're, whether you're an existing business owner, you're a new business owner, you're growing, whatever it being, if you're fully committed to making yourself and your business something, you better eat, breathe, sleep that business. It is now 24/7. You better be thinking about it all the time. You better be connecting with people all the time. You better be going out to functions. You better be in people's faces. Social with what's happening, in our world today, it's made it a lot harder. And if you're starting off now versus 5-10 years ago, because of the limitations with social gatherings, everything else, but I could not have done, Kormans could not have done, David could not have done what we're doing if we'd not been in people's eyesight. And there's something different when I go and give a seminar. David Korman always says this: we go and give a seminar in person, we're walking out of there with 3 deals. We do it virtually. People know us, but it's not the same. So I made sure that I obliterated myself for as long as need be to get over that next hurdle, and finding the right people, finding the right positions. We went from the lawyers doing all the admin to having an office manager, having a head clerk, having a senior lawyer, getting people, having team meetings, organizing that, doing questionnaires at the end of the year, job evaluations, job functions, helping people grow in their positions. Thinking ahead, you gotta have big scale and small scale. If each of your people are not happy in what they're doing, they're not going to help you grow. So you have to grow each individual person, plus you have to grow each department, plus you have to grow yourself as a law firm. I also think all the time, where are we going to be extinct? Where could it be that we will no longer be useful, and we will no, and that drives me. How can we become the best we can be so we're different from other law firms? How are we going to be so we're going to still be out there for people no matter what happens? So doing different areas of law, going paperless, these type of things, make sure that we don't become Blockbuster. We don't become the typewriter, and people talk about AI and where that's headed. Luckily in Canada, Ontario, we're much different than the US, and people still value what a lawyer is and closing with a lawyer versus having virtual closings, in escrow, the way they do in the States. People here value the fact, I want it done properly. I want a person searching my title properly. I want to have somebody who's properly dealing with my mortgage, and they understand the professionalism. But I always think ahead, and I think many steps ahead. Where is this industry going to be in 10, 20 years? And how am I going to be, and how is our firm going to be a leader versus a laggard, Even something simple, like when we started off, remember, David, we were Korman and Associates. And we decided that we changed the name with the 3 of us, and then we're going to be Kormans. And all of a sudden now it's a shorter URL for the website, and having a website and having reachability and having a more sleek, dynamic look to us, and having logos and taking current pictures all the time and posting this stuff. I keep coming back to realtors. How many realtors have their picture from their wedding day and it's now 10 years later, 20 years later? That's not what you look like. And no, people will meet you and they're going to say, who are you? I'm not working with you. I'm working with somebody else. Embrace who you are and be out there and express that to people. I can't emphasize, it comes back to the first thing we said: be authentic and be yourself.
Jonathan and I were at a function a couple of weeks ago at a different brokerage's holiday party, and they're doing their awards, and we're sitting there laughing because they're putting their pictures up on a big screen, and then they're walking up to get the award. You wouldn't know it's the same people with some of them, and pictures were 20 years old, and that's the picture that's still on their cards, and it hasn't been updated, and it was entertaining for us sitting there, and we got to look at ourselves and make sure we're doing the same thing, always advancing. I just want to throw something that, while all this is going on with all this concept, the marketing and the building of the firm, what's also going on and had to go on at the same time is making sure our services, the underlying service, which is the foundation of the firm, that's always being considered as well and brought to the next level, improving our systems, hiring better staff, training them better, all of that has to go on at the same time, because no matter how good you're out there marketing, when the files come in, if we can't do those files properly and timely and get back to people and have the best people getting back to people, then we're going to lose all those marketing efforts too. Okay. And all this stuff takes a lot of time. Jonathan Cohen spends a lot of time doing all this stuff. David Korman spends a lot of time with this stuff. We need other people in our office that are just as capable as we are and that are being trained. So if one of us isn't available, there's another lawyer that can answer the call, that can answer the questions. We have fabulous law clerks. We have to build that up at the same time, because there are only so many hours in the day, and it's not just me and Jonathan. We're selling everybody else in the firm too. We're selling our systems, and that we got this fabulous team together.
And you're getting a buy-in from them as well, right? Buy-in to
we need a buy-in from them.
A certain level of service, a certain level
Yep.
of consistency, a certain level of care, right?
Yep.
And if you don't get that buy-in, then the system breaks down very quickly.
But it's
Right.
tricky because every step, when you got new individuals, new teams, new groups, different organizations, there's growing pains every single time. When you're changing your technology, you're updating your technology, you're putting in different systems. Nothing ever goes smoothly. Who are we kidding here? And the problem is, a lot of, I think, organizations decide not to implement the things because they're afraid of the growing pains, and they're like, what happens if this goes wrong, that goes wrong? It will go wrong. And what you're going to do is you're going to be real to people, and you're not going to BS it. You're going to say, I'm sorry, but we have new staff members. We have now implemented new systems. I appreciate your patience in this, but it is to a greater good of it, because otherwise we're all going to be sitting in caves with candles and still sitting on our typewriters, and there's just no choice in it. You have to see the bigger vision of it, and you have to be ready, but also you got to put the time into it. And you better be dealing with bugs. You better be ready to tweak. But then all of a sudden, you're now a month later, and you're 1,000 times more productive than you've ever been. You got more transactions in, and you got happier clients. It's wins around. So, but that's creating a game plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if
I've had fears at certain times. There's been certain times here where I've invited to do a seminar, back in the days when there was in-person seminars and still in webinars, where I'm saying, I don't know if I want to do this right now, because if I do this, we're gonna get a bunch of work in, and we had nobody to do it. Like, we're at capacity. I don't know if, like, to have a fear of bringing more work in sometimes is a terrible thing, because you should never be afraid of that. But we always have to make sure that we have people to do the work, or all those efforts are lost. So, and we go through these, these highs and lows, because sometimes, we lose some people, or voluntarily or otherwise. We need new people, and we got to get them up and going before we can go. And then once we've got them, the systems are up, boom, Jonathan, get out there again. David's going to get out there again. Let's, we're free to do that, because we got to be able to service the work that we get in and do a good job on it.
And that's a key point there that David raises is, what if you get too much work, and what if you can't service? And that's one of the scary things as business owners, small business owners. They're afraid to spend money to make money. And people very much often just look at the bottom line and are scared of the expense side of it. And if you look at economics and you look at finance, if you grow enough and you spend X amount of dollars, that should be able to exponentially grow the sales, so your bottom line should be better. But it also means growing pains again. Very few businesses can be profitable from an increase in expenses in the first year. Very often it can take 5 years, it can take 10 years. And depending on yours, if you're in a restaurant, good luck. In the first year or two, you bought all that equipment, you set up all your marketing, you're going to be eating nothing for the first couple of years and hoping to break even in most cases. But they're supposed to reach that magical point where you just hit that layer and then it explodes. Like, you're on Instagram and you only have 50 followers and you keep posting. You're like, I'm posting to nothing. This is the biggest waste of time. But you keep at it. And before you know it, all of a sudden you hit that 1,000, then you're 2,000, then you're 5,000. So you got to have the big picture, but you got to spend money to make money. You got to get the right people on board, and those people cost money, certainly. But if you think about it, if you're going to close a transaction, if the worst problem is you don't have enough people, then you get those people in there. And we've grown from a standpoint, and it's not just the direct people closing the deals, it's the background people. People don't realize, they're like, oh, you're a lawyer, so you close my deal, big deal. Well, yeah, there's a lot of admin people, and there's clerks, and there's marketing people. There's a whole bunch of people in the background that brought you here and are making this close. And when you don't, and in accounting and bookkeeping and management. So guess what? How many people were involved in your transaction that you don't realize it because there's a machine now, there's a team, versus going to a sole practitioner, one person, one clerk. Oh, somebody's sick today. I guess we're going to close the office. Oh, they're in court today. Guess we won't close that real estate deal. It can't function like that. If you have a good team, if one person falls off, you can have 5 other people, 7 other people that can step in, and the machine keeps going. You know, GM, Ford, and none of them are any different. If one person is sick on the line, what are we going to shut down the car production? No, the next person comes in. But you want to teach the people that they can do this, but then they learn this position, that position. So eventually they're going to be supervising the line, you know, and you want everybody to keep growing. You want the person to take the next person's job. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That means they're growing and they're expanding.
I can't believe an hour has gone by. I mean,
Really?
we're barely scratching.
Well, we may have to bring them back for part 2 and
I
part
think
3.
we have to bring him back. Absolutely. But guys, before we end today.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead, David, and then I want to say something too.
Okay, sounds good. But before we end today, I just want to know, and I mean, I know that you guys reached a 10-year goal in 4 years, but by now I'm sure you guys have another 10-year goal out there. So what is that 10-year goal?
Well,
Jonathan's plan is for me to retire.
I'm going to, you know, there's systems now where they have computers and microchips that they can implant in your head, and that computer stores your memory. And as body parts decay, they can put in robotic parts. So I'm eventually going to make David Korman into a cyborg that will be able to work forever. That's my goal.
I'm sorry to hear that, David.
I think I'm already there. Jonathan, we can't stop this without, since it's your first visit, without seeing what kind of footwear you have on today.
You know, it's funny. I didn't wear a watch, didn't wear footwear. I just brought the shirt out today, so you'll have to wait for another one.
Well, I'm disappointed. I told you to bring your A game for this. Like, this is really
okay, but I brought the best color shirt that I could.
Well, then I'll show you what I've been wearing in your honor today. These are what I've been wearing today.
Oh, wow.
Those are old school.
These are old school Converse kicks. Now, these actually are game worn because I wore them and won championships with these shoes that I've protected and kept over the years. So these aren't just, you know, shoes that you wear and you buy and you so if anybody wants to make me an offer for the shoes, I'm sure there's a lot of value in them. They smell like me.
Will you autograph them?
Or for sure. But those are real Converse game worn shoes that did win a few basketball championships going back many years. And but in your honor, Jonathan, I thought for sure you'd have something fancy, because Jonathan, for those that don't know, Jonathan is a collector of
Jordan ones.
Of what?
Jordan ones. That's
Well,
the original shoes that Michael Jordan wore in '85, and now they're up to 32 or 33 series of them. I only wear Jordan ones, high OG, with a Nike Air tag still on them before there was a Jordan brand. All the colors, all the materials. So I will wear them for the next time we meet.
These are Korman ones, first limited edition, Kormans 1.
My God, it seems like Sutton Summit just has to step up their game.
Well, it's all about styling and profiling, you know. But to answer your question, Mr. Gorski, the one thing I will say is this: what I thought the world was going to look like, and what I had envisioned of a 10-year plan. COVID definitely put a standstill to some parts of it. Definitely brought an evolution, and in some ways that plan is still being evolved. But it allowed us to become fully paperless, virtual. Those were positive points in a very non-positive society environment. But certainly we evolved 10 years quicker than I thought because of that. I was reading about paperless virtual law firms 10 years ago, and I was reading books about it, and that was a vision I had. I didn't think we were going to reach that probably for another 10 years. We're already reached another 10-year goal way ahead of time. But as far as from a law firm as a whole, and a lot of organizations look this way, if I had to look at a vision of Kormans right now, if you put me on the spot, I tell myself, are we going to be mainly a real estate boutique firm that does corporate, wills, family? Are we going to be a full service law firm? Are we going to be 10 lawyers, 20 lawyers, 50 lawyers? Not really sure on that. There's a lot of parts that have to happen. It really depends on who the next team members come on, how they evolve, and then that can grow departments, that can grow people, or we may have to scale back and regroup. So that part of it, I would say there's several 10-year plans, and they all evolve based on how certain factors hit, but there's certainly always a game plan of where we're going to hit. It's not like we're really happy where we are today. Super, let's stop all the marketing efforts now. Let's stay exactly the way we are, and I'll think about this in another 10, 20 years. No chance.
Yeah, I love the phrase next level. And we're always thinking about, you have to think about that, how to raise the game, how to take it to the next level. What's the next level going to be? And like Jonathan says, it could go different ways, because whichever way you're going to go, you have to make sure that there's quality control with it, that you're going to do it right. You got the right people in place, you got the right systems in place. But I think, you know, what Jonathan brings to the table a lot is the openness to consider option A, option B, option C, you know, and so a lot of that's out of the box. Because yeah, it's easy to say, okay, you know, we're a real estate boutique. We've got 7 lawyers right now. So a couple years from now, we're gonna have 12 lawyers, 10 lawyers, all doing the same thing. We're just gonna do more of the same. Well, yeah, that might be the reality when you look back. Maybe we just end up doing more of the same. But we're also open to the idea of, well, the same might not exist. What if it doesn't exist? We got to do something different. Or what if it's just natural for us to get into some other areas? But if we're going to do that, we got to do it the right way, with the right people, the right systems. And Jonathan's fabulous at looking at what else might be out there and what ideas, and throwing that around. And some of it sticks and some of it won't. And some of it just gets put on hold for a little bit, and we'll circle back a year from now, 2 years from now. But it's his energy and creativity. He's always thinking about what's next, how to take this to the next level. And that's, you know, I certainly have a great appreciation and respect for his ability to do that and get me thinking along those terms.
And from a business organization standpoint, I would say one of the biggest mistakes people make is they think that everything is about business and business planning and everything else. If I tell you from Korman's standpoint, the stuff I brought to Korman's is because I have professional and personal, and I set myself personal goals. If you met me 10 years ago, I was planning to do yoga training, and I was going to be a yoga instructor. I was going every day to the yoga studio. I was doing yoga 7 days a week at the studio, and I was in a different sphere. I was doing it to keep my body healthy, but also to keep my mind healthy. And I can't tell you how many ideas, like the chosen lawyer, the whole concept of how it evolved, that came from lying down in Shavasana before starting a yoga class. And then from there, that evolved into boxing. And I thought I was going to go into the boxing ring, and I trained for boxing. Then I realized I can't obliterate my brain because I can't take too many punches to the head. So I'm going to take the boxing training I had plus the gym, and I'm going to take that into bodybuilding instead. So, and compete in that. And now from there, I do CrossFit. So it's like I constantly doing something, and what I thought my goal was going to be personally evolves, but I put a lot of energy and think about it. But what's happening is in the subconscious, I'm taking the personal goals and the personal energy, and I'm throwing that into business as well. And if you're not doing that kind of stuff to set yourself from a personal standpoint, that your body's sharp, your mind is sharp, you ain't going to succeed in business as well. You got to come ready, and you got to be well-rounded. And that takes a huge time commitment. I get it. Like, you're tired at the end of the day. Don't go on the couch and eat a bag of chips for dinner. Go and make yourself something quick to eat. Go lie down and do some yoga. Go do some curls. Go for a walk. Do anything, but keep sharp, because this depends on this.
Yeah. Amazing. Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Amazing session. I mean, you know, great topics. And Jonathan, I'd love to have you guys for another session next week, so we can dive deeper into some of the things we talked about, and then peel back some of those layers, because a lot of lessons here for business owners, a lot of lessons here for realtors, a lot of lessons here for other law firms that, you know, are small and boutique in nature and want to get to that next level. And I think you guys, you know, are doing a phenomenal job. And you guys are you know, better than ever before. And you know, I see you guys are growing. You're sponsoring the Buzz conference. We're doing a session there together in January. And it's never the status quo. There's always a new idea. There's always a new plan, and it's just fun to watch you guys keep evolving and changing and going to the next level. So it's been great, and obviously we have a long-standing relationship. So I feel the changes and I see those changes, and it's great to witness that.
Well, I appreciate you having me on again, and this was really awesome. I would say, if you can have the producer of the show afterwards call my agent, and we can negotiate the terms, and I'm sure we can come to an understanding, and happy to come back and join you guys anytime.
Awesome. Well, listen, you released all the rights because it's now aired, right? So you forfeited all the negotiation aspects that you think you might have, but we'll take it under advisement.
For the Davids,
when I first mentioned this to Jonathan, he said, "Are you sending a limo to pick me up?" Yeah, for sure. The limo arrived, didn't it, Jonathan?
You know what?
You didn't look outside your door.
But again, it's knowing your worth. For the people out there to know, I need a limo to be able to come because my time is valuable, and to make sure the producer of this show will talk to my agent. We understand there's people in the background that make these things happen. They're like, oh, so this is not just three guys jumping up on a camera. There's a whole thing behind it.
The reality is he's not a very good driver. That's why he needs a limo. He's
you know what? It's not my fault. It's just that those speed limits, the cars just like to go. So we have to stay safe.
All right,
thanks
guys.
for being with us today, Jonathan. And also thank you. Jonathan's been in the background helping us evolve this podcast with with technology, with ideas, and he's been involved in getting us where we're going to go with this podcast, and involved with what we're going to do at the Buzz conference in January. So thank you very much for your involvement and your support in this. And we're going to, just like with everything else that we do, Jonathan, we're going to take podcasting to the next level in the new year.
There's a lot of people that need knowledge, need information. You guys are great. You look great. You sound great. You have great information. You're both experienced people in your respective industries, and people need this information. And once people hear it, the buzz gets built up, and more people get to see you, and they're like, wow, I really learned something today. I'm a much better realtor. I'm much better now homeowner. I can go and I feel confident. I got this information. You're doing a really good thing here. And, we want to get it out to the masses because people need this information. So thank you both for what you're doing for society, and keep at it. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, Jonathan. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great week and buy lots of real estate.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Jonathan.
Bye.
Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market and dive deep to understand the issues affecting buyers, sellers, investors, and businesses. If you love real estate as much as we do, sit back, relax, and gain an insider's edge to the exciting world of real estate. David Gorski is a broker and the owner of Sutton Summit Realty, a powerhouse brokerage providing guidance to over 180 realtors. And David Korman is a partner at Kormans LLP, a respected law firm specializing in residential and commercial real estate transactions, with offices located in Toronto, Mississauga, and Markham.